Welcome to Sally's story. As you know, ACFI is a complex tool. Many aged care facilities struggle to achieve their entitled ACFI income because they don't fully understand how ACFI works. In this presentation, you will hear Sally's story, and you'll discover how two different approaches to assessment result in significantly different levels of care and funding. My passion is not about the money, but what the money can do for the resident by improving their care in the last chapter of their lives. This is Sally's story. What do we know about Sally? Well, firstly, Sally doesn't exist, but Sally represents many of the residents in your care. Sally is an 84-year-old lady who can no longer manage at home and requires admission to a residential aged care facility. Sally's diagnosis that she presents with on admission is that she has osteoarthritis of her lower back and her right knee, and pretty severe. She's got a frozen right shoulder. She's a type 2 non-insulin dependent diabetic and cognitively as sharp as a tack. Now we're going to place Sally in two different facilities. And for want of a better word or name for the facilities, we're going to refer to them as Facility A and Facility B. So what do we know about both of those facilities? Well, both have recently gone through accreditation. Both have achieved the 44 outcomes, and both of the reports from the Standards and Accreditation Agency read no further recommendations. So that is about as good as you can get. So these are two well-run facilities with robust systems in place. So now let's take a look at Sally as she enters into Facility A, what her health journey looks like. Now, Facility A have an approach to assessment that is what we call acute-based, and they are very reactive and responsive to events that occur. So Sally enters. Now for the next 4 to 5 weeks of Sally's stay in the facility, she will have numerous assessments conducted. Following those assessments, a care plan is then generated. And once that care plan is complete, her ACFI submission is ready to go to Medicare. Sally travels along quite stably for a while in the facility for the first couple of months, and then Sally has an event, and that event is that she falls in the toilet. Now with that fall, there was a major deterioration. Fortunately, Sally didn't break any bones, but she was pretty battered and bruised, and she had lacerations on her face and on her arms. The worst thing that happened to Sally when she fell is that she lost her confidence. But as soon as Sally had fallen, the investigation began. Back the staff went to the care plan. What does the care plan say Sally's needs are regarding toileting? Well, the care plan said that Sally was independent. They don't leave it there. They track it back to her assessment. What did her assessment say about what her toileting needs were? Well, the assessment indicated that she was pretty unsteady on her feet, but she understood what the toilet was. She knew where to locate the toilet. She knew how to use the toilet. And because she was cognitively intact, she was also very independent about the fact that she wanted to toilet herself. So that's when the decision was made for the care plan that she would be independent. So she was reassessed. Now it was clear on that reassessment that Sally now required one assist in order to keep her safe. She improved, but she never got back to what she was before the fall. She stabilises and her health journey continues. And she goes along quite well, again for another month or so, but then she sustains a skin tear on her lower leg. Immediately, dressings begin on that skin tear, but investigation also begins. And so back again, the staff go to the care plan. What is it that Sally needed to have regarding her skin management on the care plan? Well, the care plan stated that she just needed her skin to be moisturised following her shower of a morning. We went back to the assessment. The assessment said, well, she had a number of scars on her lower legs. She had very dry skin generally. She had a few keratoses and a few age-related spots and discoloration, but outside that her skin was intact, and therefore the decision to go on to her care plan was, other than moisturise, do nothing. Treatment continued, but we were losing the battle. Then in come the wound specialists. So this facility is very responsive to every event that's occurred, realised when things were outside of their scope and brought the most skilled people in to address it. So the wound specialists come in, vascular surgeons now are involved. What are we going to do to help Sally? Sadly, with both lots of input, it gets worse and worse, to the point where Sally now has to have a below-knee amputation. Now, through this journey, Sally's deteriorated further and further. She's gone from a 1 assist to a 2 assist. She's gone from ambulating with a frame now to be basically chair-bound and bed-bound. She's not leaving her room. She's in a lot of pain and discomfort, and it's taking a lot of time from the staff to be engaged in her wound management. She has the leg off, she gets through the anaesthetic, through the operation well. She comes back to the facility, but sadly, Sally's given up. Sally doesn't want to live anymore. Sally feels a freak. She doesn't want anyone to see her with her leg amputated. She doesn't want family to visit. She feels a burden, and she feels it would be a blessing to everyone if she just passed away, which happens a short time after that. Sally does that very thing. Let's do some reflection now on Facility A's care. I want to ask you a question. Was the care bad? No, it wasn't bad. The facility was quick to action. Additional resources from staff were put in place as soon as the need was identified. And the most qualified people were involved in Sally's care. The only difference between Facility A and Facility B is their approach to assessment. And we're going to take a look now at Facility B and Sally's health journey through Facility B. This facility's approach to assessment is what we call proactive and comprehensive. So let's have a look. Yes, she comes in. Exactly the same thing happens. Over the next 4 to 5 weeks, Sally has numerous assessments conducted. And at the end of those assessments, a care plan is then generated, and her ACFI then is ready to submit to Medicare. The only difference in her assessments and the care planning outcomes is this, that in Facility B, everything interlinks. So her assessments begin about, let's have a look first of all at what is wrong with Sally. Let's have a look at her diagnosis. Let's have a look at how she's functioning cognitively and how she's functioning physically. And now, given that information, we'll now move on, referring back always to those key pieces of information. So every assessment links into the next. Whereas with Facility A, all we did was look at thoroughly what was happening at the moment, at that time, and how she presented. And decisions were then made on what she needed. Whereas this approach looks at the whole picture and then makes a decision about, well, what does she really need to give her the best outcome we can? And so when the care plan was developed, what they realised was that Sally, once she let go of that frame, had 10 seconds before she fell. And so the decision was made right at the very beginning, Sally needed one assist in the toilet and mobilising. Sally's a fiercely independent woman. Sally was not interested in that decision. So the clinical nurse sat down with Sally, explained to Sally that they were trying to keep her independently functioning. And what would happen to Sally is if she fell, because she would, it was just a matter of when, what her outcome could result in. And so Sally, reluctantly at first, but then decided no, there was wisdom in that, and accepted the one assist help. So she continued along and she stabilised and she was going quite well, had a few little ups and downs, but Sally didn't fall in the toilet. She continued on, some health deterioration happened. She had a few little clinical events that occurred and she did start to deteriorate, but Sally had no skin tear on her lower leg. Therefore, she had no dressings, no leg amputation. And the reason that she did that is that, number one, she was being supervised when she was walking, but number two, the staff, when they looked at her skin assessment, while it was absolutely intact, dry, they investigated what the scars were on her lower legs. They looked at the fact that Sally was a diabetic, and they knew that if Sally ended up with a tear on that leg, it would turn into an ulcer. And because her gait was so unstable, they knew she would bump her legs. And so what they did was, in addition to moisturising, they put on some leg protectors for her. So when she did knock her leg, it wouldn't tear the skin. And so decisions were made right back at the very beginning about what Sally needed to give her the better outcome. And so therefore the result was there was no skin tear, therefore there was no ulcer, therefore there was no leg amputation. And yes, Sally too passed away. So let's have a look at that now from a combined focus, I guess, if you like. When Sally's care plan was completed in Facility A, her ACFI was submitted to Medicare. When that ACFI was submitted to Medicare, they were reimbursed, but based on acute need, not on comprehensive need. And so a lot of the claims were that Sally was independent. So they got a small bucket of money. Sally deteriorated. She now needed one assist, but that wasn't enough to reapply to Medicare to get a top-up. So they had to just carry that extra cost. When she got the skin tear, when the dressings began, when the treatment started, it still didn't warrant the business rule requirement of a 2-level increase for her to get additional funding. So they just had to cope with the fact that now Sally was requiring more and more care. It wasn't until the wound became chronic were they then able to reapply and reassess her to get additional funds from Medicare to manage her care. So they did get additional funds in the end, but it wasn't long before Sally's death. And it's not paid in retrospect, it's just paid from when you put that assessment in to then it paid through to her death. So there was a lot of funds there that the facility had to cover not being reimbursed. Now, in Facility B, what happened was, in the very beginning, Sally got a big bucket of money. She got a big bucket of money because the staff were able to identify what her needs would be for the longer term, put staffing in, put strategy in place to address those needs. Sally then managed on that one bucket of money through to her death, not needing to be re-topped up. And that's how ACFI works. That's what ACFI rewards. So if I can do a really thorough, comprehensive assessment, then I'll receive my entitled income to be able to deliver the care right from the beginning to manage Sally on her journey. The proactive approach that we've just shared with Facility B, this is what ACFI rewards. And this is a win-win outcome. What we find happen is that the residents' health journey often results in less clinical events and increases their quality of life in the last phase or chapter of their life. The facility receives its entitled income to be able to provide the care that's required, and the staff and the family satisfaction is tangible. The intent of ACFI is designed to reward the management of chronic long-term conditions through a process of comprehensive clinical assessment. Thank you and enjoy the ACFI journey.